Welcome back to the channel. In 1 week, I'm going to start flight training. Let's see if I'm ready for it.
Welcome to Connect Sim, a channel dedicated to one question. Can VR Flight Sim pre-train a student for flight school? Will it make you a better pilot, faster, safer, and for less money? And will the masked aviator ever remove his VR headset?
Hey, show me in the rulebook where it says I can't wear goggles while flying. Wow, there's a lot of rules in there.
After 6 months of full immersion simulation, I'm putting my life on the line to find out. Does pre-training in VR give a rookie pilot the edge? Or have I just doomed my poor CFI to an overconfident student with a head full of bad habits?
Strap in, hit subscribe as we push the limits of pilot training
On Connect Sim.
So before I start this video, I just wanted to update you that things on this channel are about to get real. I passed my online ground school and I got the endorsement I need for the written test. I got the test scheduled, I got a medical scheduled, and on test day, it's right here at Whiteman Airport, so I figured I'd check out the vibe, talk to some people. If I like what I see, I'll schedule a couple of first flights. So just be sure and hit that like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get alerted to my next video, because the next time you see me, I might just be mask-free in a real-life airplane. Put down in the comments how ugly you think I am. We'll see if you're right. All right, here we go. We're going to do, I guess, 3 takeoffs and landings from 1-2. We'll do 3 landings at 3-0. We'll see how I do, see how we feel about them. Also put in the comments how well you think I do on each one. Which one's my worst, which one's my best. One quick note, throughout this whole pre-training regimen, I've been treating every airport as if it's untowered, talking to myself. I did a video about that earlier. I've been trying to transition into saying, like here I'd say Whiteman Tower. My biggest fear is that I get in a real plane, I get on a real mic, and I say, Whiteman traffic, and then I'm going to feel like an idiot. So I don't want to do that. I'm trying to, at least get in the habit of saying tower so that I don't, mess that one up. So just understand that that's one mistake that is baked into it. There's going to be a lot of mistakes in this, I'm sure. So this is really more about documenting where I'm at pre-flight, so that later on we can look and see how I did relative to, after 40 to 80 hours of flight training. So, all right, here we go. Let's do it. We're going to take off runway 12. We're on the correct runway, which is good. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, taking off runway 12, staying in the pattern, Whiteman. So we'll take the runway, taking off 1 notch of flaps. I know in the POH, I've read it recommends to take off with no flaps unless there's a short runway. I think what it says is that you end up, your ground roll is shorter, but you lose it in the climb out, so it's recommended to take off 0 flaps. I've been taking off flaps 10, that's rotate. I've been taking off flaps 10 just so that I get in the habit, even if I don't, use the flaps in real life, so that whenever I get to like 100 feet or whatever the altitude my instructor says is the right one, that I go flaps up. There's been times in VR that I've forgotten it, and it's I've trained it into my, habit. So I think it's good to keep that habit going. Same thing you'll see when I get to landing. I'll say carb heat because, this plane doesn't have carb in it, but the plane I fly might. And for sure, the one that if I buy one for, building time, I'm pretty sure that's going to have a carb. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left crosswind for runway 12, Whiteman. So the elevation of this airport is 1,003 feet, which puts TPA at 2,000 feet. So I'm going to try and climb up. I over-rotated there just a little bit. I'm going to try and climb to 2,000 before I get to my downwind. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left downwind for runway 12, Whiteman. All right, so there's TPA. I'm just going to level off here. And so what I usually try and do, I'm at about 100 knots here. At the tower, I start to reduce power, carb heat, and I maintain the altitude so that I try and see, you can see my speed coming down. And then when I'm abeam of the numbers, that's when I'm going to throw in first notch of flaps. So I hope I get this approach somewhat right. We'll see when I get to the real airport. I'm pretty sure Whiteman is where I want to fly out of.
One thing I found out about Van Nuys compared to Whiteman is that Van Nuys,
You may spend more time on the ground waiting for takeoff, so the amount of time that you spend learning might be reduced. So, and also I like Cessnas. For some reason, there's more Cessnas at Whiteman than there are at Van Nuys. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left final for runway 12, Whiteman. This is a steep turn. I did that all wrong. All right, so that's not a great sign for things to come. I turned late and I had to come back around on it. Let's throw in, what are we, 20 flaps? So this isn't a great landing already. I'm crossing the threshold at 80, which is way too fast. We're going to go around. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, going around. Whiteman. Flaps. Even in VR, I'm trying to get into the habit of going around. On that one, I was just way too fast. 80 over the threshold is way too fast. Usually I'm looking for like 65 knots or so. Somewhere in there. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left crosswind for runway 12, Whiteman. I definitely, when I record these videos, I become a much worse pilot because I have to sit and explain. Let's power down so we hit our TPA. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left downwind for runway 12, Whiteman. I'm probably going to end up talking to myself a lot during training because there are some things that, that I say as I do, which gives me kind of a rhythm to the flight, and that I find is very helpful. And that I do a lot when I'm, when you guys aren't watching me, when I'm not doing a video, I'm still talking to myself. I'm just not explaining what I'm doing as often, and I feel like it's the explaining. Carb heat, power down. It's the explaining that takes extra brain power. They always say that if you can't explain something simply, then you don't really know a subject. Well, I have 0 flight hours, so I absolutely do not know this subject. I'm just kind of blind man stumbling around in the dark. Whiteman traffic, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left base for runway 12, Whiteman. I'm somewhat confident in VR, but getting in a real plane, I don't know. I'm excited for it. I feel like it's the culmination of a lot of work that I've put in to kind of prepare myself for it. So I hope it goes reasonably well. I hear stories of people who, flaps 20 coming in, people who have ups and downs. Nobody has a straight shot where they have steady improvements. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left final for runway 12, Whiteman. They have steady improvements, and then they backslide a little bit, and then improvements, and then backslide. So I feel like I'm mentally prepared for that, and I've had that in VR as well, so it's something I'm sort of used to. Too fast. Let's bring in some more flaps. I am worried about sort of an overconfidence, creeping in. I'm worried that an overconfidence might lead to disappointment on my end, where when things become real, here's our transition. We're just going to float forever because I was going too fast over the threshold. I flared too early. And I flared twice, which is probably bad. I'm going to plop this in. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, taking off runway 12, staying in the pattern, Whiteman. Yeah, so on that one, I ballooned a little bit on the transition. That put me too high for the final flare. So I gotta watch that. That's one thing that I feel is really easy to do, but once it's happened, you kind of have no choice but to just, hold off and wait for a descent, and then kind of delay your flare almost is what it seems like. That's what it feels like is the right thing to do. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left crosswind for runway 12, Whiteman. So to give you an idea of the things I've been doing, I haven't been able to do a video on everything I've been doing, but like one of my previous videos, I've been doing turns around a point and S-turns and, square pattern in wind. I feel like those have been pretty useful. I feel like now I can feel what the wind is doing within the sim, which I think is fairly useful. I've gotten, we're a second away. I've gotten actual sectional charts, paper sectional charts, and I've charted out, cross-country trips. That's carb heat. We'll power down. I've charted out cross-country trips using VOR navigation, and I've just kind of written down, like in the old days when you print out MapQuest directions, except for its VOR frequencies, radials I want to fly at. I'll check to make sure, should throw flaps in. I'll check to make sure, all the airspace is safe for me to fly in. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left base for runway 12, Whiteman. So it's a good way to take all the ground school stuff that I've learned and all the, book reading from the PHAC and that sort of, and even videos from other CFIs who do this sort of thing, take all this information and coalesce it down to the last thing that you're really trying to do, which is take an airplane from one place to another. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left final for runway 12, Whiteman. I feel like I'm a little low. 300 feet, yeah, I'm low. I got 2 on the Pappy, so Pappy's happy. For my Seinfeld fans, I'm sure I'm the first person to have made that joke. First person, everybody. You're looking at him. Took 25 years.
28. Wow. Seinfeld's old.
A little off the center line. Let me correct for that. Just transition. Try not to balloon like last time. A little bit of a flare. Ooh, it was good, but I bounced. Flaps. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, taking off runway 12. It's staying in the pattern, Whiteman. So we're looking for perfection. That one was close. I feel like the approach was really good. The transition was really good. The flare was at the right time, but I bounced. Yeah, I'm kind of worried about like an overconfidence that leads to disappointment. An overconfidence and then getting humbled and having that putting me lower than had I not had the confidence. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left crosswind for runway 12. If I went in with no knowledge, then I could feel all right about making, easy mistakes that everybody makes early on. If I feel like I've done all this work to prepare, what if this work doesn't pan out? What if it doesn't have any real relevance to real life flying? Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left downwind for runway 12, Whiteman. If that's the case, then I might have been better off just getting in a real plane from day one. I think it was a good move to spend so long studying the ground school material. Like I said in my last video, I caught a show in December, which was a reality show that I was lighting, and TV shows in December, anybody who's in the film industry, carb heat, is going to tell you don't get work in December. Flaps 10 coming in. I feel like the film industry is a lot like being a squirrel. You have to gather your acorns while you can because winter comes and then there are no more acorns to be gotten. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left base for runway 12, Whiteman. And this year it was a miracle. There was acorns in December. It was a travel job. I was in Palm Springs. Flaps 20 coming in. So I had a lot of time to, sit in a hotel room and study the material. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, left final for runway 12, Whiteman. Brought a little desktop rig with me. The cleaning crew at the hotel probably thought I was nuts, but, every night I could sit down and I could fly a couple of missions and kind of keep up with it. And during the day I could read the books. I could do little practice tests. Let's do flaps 30 coming in. I'm low on the glide slope and I'm a little too fast. But I feel like it was those sort of things that, I feel confident in the book material. I feel really confident. I ended up getting 100 on the qualifying test that, if you don't know, you have to basically get a CFI to sign an endorsement for you to take the PAR, which is the written test that you have to take. Let me just focus on this flare for a second. Ooh, that one felt good. So yeah, you have to take a test in order to take a test, basically. So we'll try the other runway, see how we do there. Yeah, let me know on that last set how you think I did. Which one was my best one? Which was my worst? Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, taking off runway 30, staying in the pattern. Whiteman. Once again, treating it like it's an untowered airport while still saying towered. Here we go, runway 30. See if it gives us any luck. Airspeed's alive. 55 rotate. This is going to be a fun channel, I think. It's something that I haven't really seen in other channels. It was something I really wanted to see, was sort of the process of getting your license. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, right downwind for runway 30, Whiteman. So yeah, be sure hit that subscribe button, follow along with my journey, see how I do. If you're a real pilot, I think this is going to be fun to follow along because it may be a little bit of nostalgia for when you went through flight training, carb heat. I always think of that movie, The Game, where it was Michael Douglas, where, halfway through he meets some dudes who had gone through the game. And they're like, oh, if I could go back and do it again. I wonder if that's Flaps 10 coming in. Do you look back fondly on your day's training? Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, right base for runway 30, Whiteman. I also wonder how close this graphics are going to look. The topography that I know in the LA Valley area seems like it's really accurate. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, right final for runway 30, Whiteman. I think I'm at a decent approach speed, so I think a low approach is all right. We'll see. Here we go. Transition. Oh. I felt it was a very good landing, and I screwed it up by pulling back just as I was touching down. Flaps coming up. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, taking off runway 12, staying in the pattern. Whiteman. Rotate. Bit of a Schrodinger's paradox going on. I'm fine when nobody's watching, but the second you put a camera on me, then I make mistakes. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, right crosswind for runway 30, Whiteman. Whenever I watch videos of people doing radio calls, I'm always impressed that you can rattle it off so fast. I feel like that's sort of an acquired skill. I think that's why one reason that radios, I don't know if it'll be my hardest subject, the hardest skill I'll have to develop, carb heat, but for some reason it just feels daunting that it's not just being able to talk really fast, and not even the speed of it. It's not so much the speed, it's just accuracy and hearing accurately. Like those two things, I feel like so much can go wrong in communication. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, right base for runway 30, Whiteman. I watch a few videos on airplane accidents to see where the dangers actually lie. I hope it makes me a safer pilot and not just a morbid one, but a lot of them seem to deal with communication errors. So that's just one that I don't know if I think I'll be bad at it or I think that it's very important. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, right final for runway 30, Whiteman. I mean, I definitely think it's important to get very good at it, but I don't know. I feel like landings I can learn, especially if there's somebody to teach me how to land. Landings I can learn. Navigation I feel very confident in. Just talking. We'll see. Here we go. Transition. Floating a little. That one was decent. A little bit of a plop, but flaps. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, taking off for runway 30, staying in the pattern. Whiteman. I got too much speed before I rotated. The good thing about this mask that I'm gonna miss when you actually see this mug, you can't see all the times I'm rolling my eyes at myself in disappointment. I go very disappointed dad on myself sometimes, and the ugliness too. Did I mention the ugliness? Whole lot of ugliness going on. There's a reason I'm wearing this mask. Not an accident. A little low on TPA. I hope I get in the plane in the first 3 hours. So like, hey, land this sucker. They won't do that. Alright, we need to slow down. Throw flaps 10 in. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie. Right base for runway 30, Whiteman. I do wonder what's the earliest a student pilot has ever landed. I'm sure there's a lot of basics that you have to go over before you even get to that point. And I'm not really in a rush. I don't mean to make it seem like I am. Flaps 20 coming in. I'm just excited for the day that I can do this for real. Whiteman Tower, Skyhawk 7 Delta Charlie, right final for runway 30, Whiteman. To get in a plane for real and, line up on an approach. I'm excited for the first time I can do that. And I'm excited for the first time I do that with confidence. I definitely won't be confident the first time. I probably won't be confident the 5th time. But where in that curve do you start feeling like, I've got this? Here we go. A little transition. Ooh, that one felt really, really good. Little off center line, but I felt like I just kind of greased it in. I'm not going to make alpha. I'll take it to Bravo. So, yeah, this may be the last time you see me in VR. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to come back and do some things integrated into my real flights. So you may see like real flight, VR flight, real flight, VR flight. But in terms of a full-on VR flight all the way through, this may be the last time you see that. So enjoy not seeing my mug, because all that's changing. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Come take this journey with me. Yeah, we'll see how it all turns out. I'm going to cross my fingers I'm not part of the 80% that drop out. So wish me luck. Hit that like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.